Today's video, I'm going to go over 5 things that give you at least a starting point to understand living trusts, what they are, what they do, and why you may be on the right track to getting one. The first thing that you need to know is that a trust is a contract. If you put together a living trust, which is a trust that you put together during your lifetime for your loved ones, you're going to be putting together a contract between yourself, your trustee, your future trustee. I'm going to talk about trustees in a second, but you need to just know that you're putting together this contract. And why you're doing that, it's because you're creating a situation where your assets can be managed for you during lifetime, and then for your loved ones, whoever your heirs are, upon your passing. You're going to have a specific approach in written form with regard to those assets. There's 5 things that I want you to know about in order to make the right decision as to whether you're on the right track to particularly a living trust. And there are different kinds of trusts, so I'm going to touch on that as well. Let's jump in. Trust is a contract. We covered this. So when you set this up, it's going to be in contractual language. You know, I hereby am settling this trust. I'm putting assets in it. You're called the settlor. So you have a contractual basis, and you're going to spell out who you are setting up this trust. Typically with a living trust, family living trust, or revocable trust, which are all the same things, you're setting this up where you have total control over it during your lifetime. And so you're the settlor of this trust, and you're also, as long as you have capacity and are able, you're going to also be the trustee who is the manager of the trust. And you're also going to name your beneficiaries of the trust. You're going to be using this trust in the same way you might use a bank account during your lifetime, but you're going to have contingent beneficiaries, people that after you pass would be entitled to taking the trust assets in the way that you describe in the contract. So you're seeing why this is a contract laid out the way that it is. The next thing is that this is state specific. So if you live in Oklahoma, Indiana, Texas, you're going to have specific trust language, a trust code that regulates how that trust is governed in that state. And you can move, so you could have a trust in Oklahoma and move to Texas, and that would be perfectly enforceable in Texas. So people get confused about that, but it is state specific. So you're setting that up under your current state laws, but you can move. And if you do move permanently, you might consider updating your trust to the new state's laws, as this does kind of hinge upon your state of residency. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to appoint successor trustees. So if you're the trustee of your family trust to begin with, you're going to want somebody to be able to serve in the event that you can no longer serve in that role. If you're married or in a partnership, domestic partnership, you can have each other serve if you have a joint trust, and have that other person serve in the alternative if you're no longer able to serve. However, if you're the only trustee, then you're going to appoint somebody else as a successor. So with family trusts, a lot of times a spouse is the first successor, and then you may have somebody down the road, an aunt, a sibling, one of the siblings to sort of administer the trust for the others. And there's pros and cons with that. You might have a corporate trustee if you're a larger estate. You can have a family member serve hand in hand with a corporate trustee. So there's different things that you can do in this trustee role. So you can also have co-trustees, which is an interesting thing. If you have more than one adult child, but you have them together, and you might also have them serving as co-trustees. That's something that can be done. So you're going to put that into the contract as well. Next thing you need to know about the revocable living family trust is that this is a roadmap. So this is going to have a chronology to it. If something happens to me, maybe my spouse continues to manage the trust and use all those assets for our benefit. If my spouse and I both pass, what happens at that point? Well, the first thing that happens is the trust becomes irrevocable, and the successor trustee takes charge of the trust. So then you have a lot of different things that can happen with this roadmap. And I'm going to kind of 4 and 5 together, because you might have a short-term or a long-term trust. So a short-term trust would be something that, that the last settlor passes, the successor trustee steps in, and the trust assets are then managed to basically marshal all the assets, account for all of them, pay bills, and then distribute the assets outright to kids or other beneficiaries, other heirs, nieces, nephews, charities, whatever. Now, you might have something that's more of a long-term, which is more of what we might call a dynasty trust. If you've ever heard about the Rockefellers and their trusts, that is a fully loaded, different kind of trust from your typical family trust. Nonetheless, that would be a long-term plan. We have a trustee that would plan on being there in this role for quite a while. Maybe you have young kids, so they're going to be needing trustee services for 20 years. Maybe they need help in paying bills. Maybe there are even some restrictions on when they can get the money at age 20, 25, 30. I've seen all those variations all up in various ages. And sometimes you have assets that stay in trust, and you could have a legit dynasty trust that would then, assets would stay in trust until the next generation, which can be an estate tax planning strategy. This can be a very simple document that is strictly for marshaling and controlling and distributing assets methodically. This can also be a tax planning document, which gets into more advanced planning kinds of things. It could be the same type of document, a family living trust, but just with more bells and whistles on it. So you've got a pretty good grasp on the contract, the state-specific nature, appointing your trustees and successors, having your roadmap, and deciding whether this is short or long-term. You've really got what you need to get into now the DIY document, if that's your choice, or if you're considering an attorney, to be able to articulate how you want this trust to unfold. At the end of the day, you're in the driver's seat on this. I commend you for looking into this. I did another short video on some things to consider as to whether you really need a trust, basically just 3 different questions to ask. You can check that out. With that, if you have any comments, I'm happy to answer them. Put them in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.